There you go. All right.
Okay, thank you, Mark. As everybody knows, we've had quite a substantial goose problem on the lake, both at the town beach and at many, if not all of the residences. So, Phyllis, you had recommended their service, and thank you for that. And last night I had a chance to meet these folks, and they came over the house and took a look around and gave us some feedback, and so we were at least a little bit prepared for the meeting tonight. But Kevin, you want to take it from here and
sure.
Talk about
give it a shot for you.
Yeah.
So we have had communication with a couple of folks. I think you and I spoke, and you maybe and my wife spoke. And this is an ongoing problem. And I've been to the beach a couple of times to see the issues that are going on there. And it's pretty bad, quite honestly. I mean, I went there one rainy day and the dock was just covered with feces, and the walks and everything. So basically with Central Canine as a whole has been in business for roughly 25 years. We have a facility in Storrs, Connecticut, where we do training, obedience, agility, dock diving, frisbee, any type of dog sport we do there. We also do herding at our home, at our farm in Lebanon. So all these things kind of tie together with what we do with the goose stuff. We use the border collies to harass or haze the geese to make it so that they don't feel safe to stay in this area. There's a lot of techniques out there. There's strobe lights, there's noise makers, there's a lot of things. And all of those things are aids, but they really don't solve the problem. And quite honestly, I'll just be straight up. Most people do not know how to address this problem because they don't know about a service like ours that's out there that can help. We do this every day, so we've learned techniques. And to go out there with a strobe light, if that strobe light does not hit that goose directly in the eye, it does nothing. It does not affect them. The idea behind the strobe light is so when they sleep at night, that flashing light disturbs them and keeps them awake. And then they go look for another place to go where they can sleep at night. But if you're not right at eye level and that thing's bobbing in the water and they're bobbing in the water, it doesn't really do anything. It is an aid because there is some type of deterrent there. But when the dogs come in, they see the dog as a predator. And the dogs really kind of, if you've ever seen any videos of it, they are like a wolf or a coyote, a predator. They get down and they kind of walk in and keep their head down. And the geese will challenge them, but the dogs are strong, and the geese will just eventually give in to them and say, "I'm not safe here. I'm going to go find another location to go." The problem that has been created here on the lake is that the population has gotten so large because they've been unchecked for so long. And what happens with the geese is they'll come here, they have like GPS. They will come back to this lake every year and they will have their young here, they will hatch them here, they will raise them here, they will feed them here. And then when you guys are frustrated enough at the end of the summer and you're packing things up because winter's coming, they take off and go somewhere else, which makes you even more frustrated because you can't control the situation. So the geese population in this area tends to start to migrate here late February, March, depending on the severity of the winter. If we have a mild winter, obviously they come a little sooner. A more harsh winter, they'll come a little later because, as we know as New Englanders, it can snow here in April and it can be pretty miserable in March. So there is no set pattern, but that is a target time frame of when you'll see it. And typically, they won't leave until, well, they won't leave until the babies are ready to fly. They will never leave the babies behind. No matter how much I harass them, they will not leave those babies until they're ready to fly. But you're looking at a, August, September timeline before they want to start to leave anyways. our goal is to break that cycle. Our goal is to get them out of here, catch them in February or March and tell them, we don't want you here anymore, move on. Go find somewhere else to make a home. And it's not going to happen overnight. It takes time. But if we do it properly, they will eventually leave and we will break that cycle. I don't know how many you have here, and I would not know. I mean, you have a large lake. So I don't know.
Approximately 50.
Yeah, I mean, until I get out there and really see where they are, it's hard. I mean, you know, we're working with other lakes in this area, Coventry, Mansfield. They're having similar problems, and they have large populations. Not so much Mansfield.
How large is Coventry's population? I'm curious.
Well, they don't know, but I'm just going to tell you, when I was meeting with the public works director, there was about 40 of them that swam by us in the lake. And it's a fairly sizable lake, so I really don't know what's on the other end, but they're looking at the beach on Patriots Park side, and then the beach on the far end side. Both beaches are affected by the geese. So honestly, how I kind of got involved with Coventry was I happened to go to the Lakeview restaurant and I saw the damage at the lake. So I contacted them and I said, you know, you guys got a serious problem here. You know, what are you doing to correct it? And they basically said, nothing. You know, we're frustrated. We don't know what to do. So
are you suggesting something can be done here at Columbia Lake now, August, September?
So I think your best maneuver is to start now.
Okay. And
we're going to work them now, and we're going to try to figure them out, because they're going to remember that it wasn't safe here, even though they're going to come back. So in the springtime, when we go back at them, they're going to remember, oh, I remember this, and you know, hopefully we're going to push them out soon.
So how do you do it around the lake?
So this is the difficult part, because it's such a large lake and you have so many independent properties. It is difficult for us to get access, because unless everybody gives us access, and like we discussed last night, I'm just looking for access to allow the dog to go onto their property and chase the geese off. I don't want to interrupt anybody's daily routine, but I may pull up on the road and say, okay, there's 30 geese in this backyard. I want to send the dog. But if the homeowner, the property owner, is not allowing us access, there's really nothing.
Right. I think there's some property owners who are sick of the nuisance of picking up lots of buckets of things that may be amenable to come on out.
Yeah, well, and probably 2 or 3 that aren't that. There's 2 or 3 that don't mind the geese.
Yes,
yeah.
I respect that.
That's saving the geese.
Yeah, I respect that.
There's always that issue, you know. It's no matter how bad they're damaging their lawns or leaving a mess behind, they love them and they want us to touch them.
Part of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
We've discussed this a few
you know, the problem has gotten worse, and I'm not trying to blame anybody, but the problem has gotten worse because of commercial development. They're developing in these marshy areas that they never did before. And I jokingly said, you can blame Amazon for this because they're building everywhere where nobody else can build. But it's kind of true in the respect that they build in areas that weren't built, and these guys were safe in these marshy areas. Nobody went in there. Nobody bothered. Now they're branching out because they have nowhere to go. And if they fly over Columbia Lake and they say, oh, this is beautiful. Look at these beautiful lawns and all these landscape yards, and you know, we got water, we got fresh grass. This guy's fertilizing his lawn. This is great, you know, and they're gonna make a home here. Now I know that we've discussed the whole Joshua's Trust thing where they kind of lay their eggs and migrate down. But like I was saying,
how would we combat that? Because they do migrate. If they get on the lake with their young, as you said, they're not going to leave.
Correct.
So the value of your border collies is they're going to chase it from one property to another. And that's
well, so you're absolutely right. But like I said last night, what we need to do in the spring is build a barrier with these dogs at the edge of Joshua's Trust, so that they don't want to come to the lake.
That's a good point.
So where and I apologize because I didn't look this up, but where does Joshua's Trust end? Does it end at Lake Road?
at Lake Road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a,
Right at the end of Aragon.
right, but it does not actually come to the lake.
but we would
So
allow you.
there's a fair amount
A
of
buffer there,
a
yeah.
buffer there, that, you know, we maybe.
And I'm just pie in the sky here. The dilemma is trying to get to them before they get to us.
Yeah.
If we could get properties on Lake Road where they come from, we happen to own one, you can come. That may help us, because once the little ones get in the lake,
Yeah.
that's where we're, you know, we got them.
I mean, you know, if you relate them to us as people, they really think the same way we do. We're protecting our young, we're protecting our homes.
Yeah.
You know, like I said last night, if I came and knocked on your door and I tried to drag you out of your house, you're gonna fight me to stay in your house. Well, it's a similar situation with them. They're gonna, this is their home, they think, and they're gonna fight. So our goal is to.
Yeah, but they don't pay the taxes and the mortgage. So.
Like I also said, if a bully lived next door to you, you're only gonna take the bully for so long, and then you're gonna try to move on. You're gonna find a new place to go, you put your house up for sale, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
That's kind of the similar thing that we're
They'll
gonna
pat
do.
their feathers and move on.
Right, we're gonna be the bully, and we're gonna say, we don't want you here anymore, move on.
Yeah. Mark, do you have any comments or feedback as it relates to the beach and you know, what your thoughts are as how the town want to possibly proceed at the beach?
Well, number one, it would be great because the beach is such an easy access point for the dogs. If with the proposal, you come up with a presentation that says, we're going to do X amount of harassments in these many weeks and these many months. And I mean, you could release the dogs way up in the parking lot and they'd fire down. The geese would never see them coming. And then it would be total panic, I would imagine. And they would get to not feeling safe in the beach. And I would think a very quick period of time.
Yeah.
But that's the number one area I'm concerned with, because that's where most of our swimming is. So I'd love a proposal. And then if the proposal could say, if you give us, you know, access to this many properties where we can also have a great success, maybe it would start to make an impact.
Yep. So is the town available or able to proceed quickly?
Yes.
If you can work out a contract?
Yes, I'd have to see a proposal, and we'd have to get a recommendation from LMAC that you think this would work, and then it would go to the Board of Selectmen. It would require a transfer because it's not in the budget. So it's not a super speedy process. It would probably take a month to get the approval.
Yeah, okay. So I think just to try to cover as much ground as we can, obviously access, so there's budget, obviously, and I can work with you and we can try to put together a proposal to get to the town after the meeting. Or tomorrow, I don't want to stick around for the rest of this meeting. But I think the next challenge, and I think this is where CLA could come in, is really to put out, notice or a request to property owners that, hey, we're looking at this service. We're trying to act as quickly as possible to salvage what's left of our season, and also into the fall, as well as preparing for over the winter. The work we do now does start to set mindset or mind patterns, if you will, for the geese to give them a little PTSD for the winter into the spring.
Sure.
And that we would want to try to, I guess, put together a list of property owners who are, you know, near and adjacent to the lake, that would be willing to sign a release or whatever, so that you can make notice, put up a sign, you know, whatever it is, so that you know where your points of access can be, or if you do see geese on a lawn, that you know that you have permission to go into that yard, and obviously try to. And one of the things that we talked about last night that hasn't come out yet is the more that we can do as a community to help this process is a win-win for everybody. It makes it easier and less stressful, obviously, for Central Canine, but it also, you know, benefits us as it, you know, reduces the amount of time, which also can ultimately reduce the expense of this service. So it really is a community initiative, a community partnership, so that everybody can get what they want. So.
It's a good idea, Mary, for CLA to reach out, but obviously there's a lot of property owners around the lake that are not members of CLA.
Correct.
So I think the town should send out, I mean, it's pretty easy just for them to mail something out to all the property owners around the lake. The tax assessor can figure that one out.
We had 50 people at the CLA meeting on July 21st. This was a very contentious issue of non-lethal versus lethal.
Right.
But the motion that the CLA passed is essentially to work with LMAC as a volunteer group to figure this out. This is one very large.
I think there's something like 250 or 275 homes around the lake.
Oh, I know that.
So
and we impact 110.
Exactly. So we need, you know, as close to 100% as possible. So I think if the town were to, you know, send mailers out, contact people by email, whatever it is, and get people on board. Because what's going to happen is you can shoot them off my yard, like they're going to go to Mike's yard. Right. If you don't sign up.
Well, and yeah, and that's why that this is really has to be a community initiative, because,
right.
Or at least most successfully, it will be a
so what makes this a unique situation is, and I think we might have talked about this, I have a friend that does this in Maryland and Virginia, and they have a community down there, and I think I mentioned this to you, they have 14,000 homes in this community. They have 9 or 10 lakes in this community, but they have a homeowners association. So all the homeowners, the property is owned as a whole, even though it's kind of like a condominium.
Okay.
So he has access to everything except for a perimeter around the house, whatever that might be, 25 feet, 30 feet,
yeah,
whatever that might be. So he saw a couple nests up under a deck at one of these properties. And he went and knocked on the front door and said, I would like access to go in and remove these nests. And the lady went crazy on him, shoot him out of there. And he's a big boy. And he said, I ran in my car, got my car. Good luck, you know, but.
And we have that, but the issue here is we have in 3 years been around this lake forever and found no nest.
Yeah.
I found them up at Joshua's.
Yeah, they're nesting outside the lake.
Yeah.
There's no.
If I had a kayak.
There's enough activity at this lake that they're not going to nest.
And I was caught.
Yeah, but once they can be mobile, they're going to come down here and.
Kevin, do they or can you access them from the water and see what's going on? Can you do it that
So
way?
I do that at times also. Obviously, the lake is quite large, so you know you need a boat to go out and
the dogs
patrol around, and we can send the dogs from the boat, but generally, you know, it's the information that I would get from the homeowners would be more useful to me. Like if you called and said, hey, I saw 10 geese in my yard at 2:30 yesterday afternoon, I start to learn their habit.
Well,
so I know where to go.
I can tell you that they hit the public beach between 4 and 5 a.m.
Right.
Because the strobe light that's over there, because there is a strobe light, startles them sometimes.
Yeah.
But swimmers come in at about 6:37 in the morning to swim the boats out in the public boats, and they take off about it. So I can hear them coming by.
Yeah, we tailor our program
just
to
so you know, they come
the
before
needs of
sunrise.
what the community needs. So if you know they're coming at 4 o'clock, we're going to be here at 4 o'clock.
At the beach.
So it works.
Yeah.
6:15, my place.
Okay, so,
It's almost.
Yes.
we kind of talked about this last night, whether it be, I don't know, text messaging, or there's some other type of way that we can.
That's an awesome idea. You might get 250 text messages.
Well, get a group text going.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be perfect, that the more information I have, the better I can help you guys.
I agree.
The other thing I wanted to just touch on, you talked about the lethal, non-lethal.
Yeah.
So you've noticed in the news a lot, Michigan, places out that way, they have decided to go to the lethal method. But the problem is they let it go so long now that they have no other option. There's no other option. You cannot control these geese. You can't get rid of a flock of 200 geese with one dog. I might have to bring 3 dogs here to put enough pressure on these guys to get them to start moving. 3 separate teams, but that's just how it works. Once you get them to understand what we're doing, then the 1 dog will be sufficient, but it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you have to be in the boat, pushing them to shore, the dogs have to harass them on the shore. We'll push them to the shore, the dogs will push them back to me in the boat. That's how it works sometimes. And the goal is to get them flying and just keep them flying.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike.
Yep.
I have a question. Is it possible for the proposal to start with focus on the town beach every day, get them off the town beach so I can stop shoveling the docks and the beach every morning for an hour?
Well, yeah, again, we can certainly make that a base point of access, but again, like I said, it's key because they're just gonna go somewhere else.
Exactly.
Right, but what I'm thinking is the proposal could ratchet up with the number of properties he gets access to. So
Right.
it's a proposal of X amount of dollars with 10 properties, X amount with 25 properties I have access to. So the more properties,
Yeah.
I would think the more it would cost.
No, it's actually the other way around. The more properties, the more, well, the maintenance cost per week is probably going to be very similar, or pretty much the same, but with more access, it's most likely that the amount of weeks that we will need their service will decrease, because if they can get more access, then that means they can apply more pressure quicker. So it's really going to be almost like a weekly service amount, and which they'll assess what they think they're going to need for people and dogs and so on and so forth, and then we'll give you a base proposal of so many weeks times so many dollars per week, and then a cost per week after that, as I remember. Is that something like that?
Right, because of the time of year.
Yeah.
And the unknown, I think the best for you guys is to do a weekly service. When it comes to the springtime, we should look at an annual contract. And what an annual contract does is, once we have put enough pressure on and you guys feel comfortable that the geese have left and we don't have the problem, then we can convert it to either a maintenance contract, which means I might come here a couple times a week just to check on things. If I don't see anything, I drive in, I drive out type of thing. If I start to see them again, then we talk, okay, we need to start putting more pressure on, and we convert it back to, either a weekly but at least with the annual contract, you'll get a time frame for us to come in and work at a certain dollar value. And then we can convert it to a maintenance contract, which means I just come here and check on it. And again, the information I get from the residents helps us too, because just because I drive into the beach and I don't see any, doesn't mean they're not going to your house and I don't see them. So the communication is key to us, to make this work.
And Mark, a question for Mark.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there a dollar figure limit that we can do that doesn't require publicly advertising for this?
Well, I need
Only like 2 weeks.
hold on. It's two verbal quotes between 1 and 10,000. So under 1,000, I don't need I can go on 1 quote, but between 1 and 10, I need 2 verbal quotes, unless the Board of Selectmen decide to override the ordinance.
He's the only game in town.
No.
Right. So
Doesn't matter.
Well,
The other guy's down in Fairfield.
Yeah, there's other guys that do it, but they're quite a distance away, and it's gonna be.
I'm just looking for legal.
Yeah, no, I get it, but honestly, it's gonna be costly for you guys for them to travel.
Yeah.
For some of these
Right,
locations.
stay
And the proposal will reflect that, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be easy.
No, I get it, I get how the towns work, trust me, I ask these questions too, where do I need to be at the threshold?
Does it make sense we task the boat as he's driving around the lake, and maybe get them to communicate?
Marine
Police
patrol.
boat, marine.
Well, we talked about that also last night, that, you know, any information they can pass along to us.
You're saying they drive around the lake, you know?
Yeah,
They're
they're
over
as
by,
much as anybody.
they're over in that cove, then you can go to the properties that are in that cove.
I can tell you Shirley King in a kayak today chased away almost 20 of them from my property. They were approaching it and she went
They were on the
after
road in front of your house.
them. Boom. Oh, I know. Trust me.
but to answer the question, Marine Patrol could be a good resource for where the geese are at all times. That's not.
Yeah, it's just a heads up, you know, if they see them at 8 o'clock on the other side of the lake.
For the sake of you carrying a radio so you can talk to them and they just report where they've seen them.
Yeah, it's all just a text message.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so,
Is that right?
do we have any other immediate questions?
Yeah, where have you had success with
Good
this?
question, Mike.
What lakes?
Well, we just did a job with Mansfield at Bicentennial Pond.
Yeah.
They had 7 geese there, 4 young, 3 adults. My assumption is there was 4 adults, one probably got eaten or whatever. And quite honestly, JOT called me the week before last and said, I don't see any more geese. I think we're good. So we just finished up with them.
Anywhere that they've had a problem like we have?
Quite honestly, this is probably the largest lake that I've ever done. We've done a lot of lakes, but you know, you're talking 5, 10 acres, you know, 20 acres, but nothing the size of this. This is
There's
huge.
upsides and downsides. There, Sharon Ladd shared at the CLA meeting that in Lexington, Massachusetts, they tried it on a pond and did not have a success with the water houses. The pond was half of our lake probably.
You mentioned Coventry Lake.
Yeah.
How are you doing there?
So I'm basically in negotiations with Coventry Lake now. I met with them twice. He actually just sent me an email. They have budget issues, just like every other town, and their concern is where they're going to grab the money from to maintain this. So what they've asked me for a proposal is Patriots Park Beach and I think it's Light Beach or Lasicki, yeah. Just those 2 areas right now. They're looking for numbers on. They're not even talking about the homes. But the ironic part is my daughter has a tutor that she works with in Coventry, so I went by the lake today. And I pulled up to Lasicki Beach, and I saw nothing on the beach, but I saw a lot of evidence.
Yeah.
So I walked down to the beach, and you know the water's closed right now to swimmers because of the blue-green mold, or algae, I'm sorry. So I walked down to the edge of the beach and I looked to my left and there's 30 of them. I got pictures of them. There's 30 of them in the guy's backyard right next door with a sign that says private property, do not enter.
Yeah.
So they knew where to go.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
So in my proposal to them, I will send those pictures along so that, you know, they kind of have some idea. Now, when I was in Maryland and Virginia helping my friend Jesse with this, there are some sizable lakes down there that we work. And some of those lakes, they have issues with the homeowners that don't want us to bother the geese, but they have decided that they have safe zones. So they'll have like a little island out in the middle. And if we can push them from the shore out to the island, they're fine with it. They'll let them stay out there. But
whose property wants to be?
Yeah. Not it.
Say, not priority.
Yeah.
Do you know the Hills?
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh my God! Every day I get an email from her. Who's damn geese are back?
Well, and I'll tell you at Mansfield, when they called me, I told Jay right out, I said, Jay, if you've got young, you know, we're not going to get rid of these guys. They're in the middle of molting season. They've lost their flying feathers. These birds are not going anywhere. If you have a marshy area that we can push them to, that would be our best bet. So I would push them to the far end of Bicentennial Pond, which is away from the beach. And the kids would think it was funny to go out with the canoes and the kayaks to push them right back to where I was. So it was a difficult scenario, but like I said, with the dogs on the beach and me in the kayak, I could push them back and forth, and they would fly back and forth, and finally they just had enough. And I was there one morning working those 7 geese that had been there, and about 15 came over the horizon, and just as they hit the water, I have a buoy that I throw out into the water that makes noise. And I threw the buoy in the water, and just as they hit the water, they took off and went back, and they circled around again, and they came back, and just as they hit the water, I did it a second time, we never saw them again. They never came back. So perfect timing. Perfect timing, but it worked.
How many boats would you use on Columbia Lake? Would you just use one boat on Columbia Lake?
For me, you know, depending on the severity of, or not severity, but the locations. If they're scattered all over the lake, it's going to be tough to use one boat and, you know, get to them all. It might have to be more than one. But
with 2 packs.
I think once we figure it out, then I think one would be, well, I would hope one would be sufficient. Because it does get costly to bring a boat here and have to have 2 teams going out in the boats. And, the more I can do from shore, the better off we are.
Okay.
For all of us.
Okay. Sure we can provide you.
Yeah. Like, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
They probably don't remember me, but I was Central Kingman.
I know.
Last year.
Yeah, they remember.
I found them to be a very professional company.
Great.
And they know their dogs, I can tell you that.
Cool.
So,
great.
I don't know.
You can tell, Steve, my wife loves her. Oh, yeah. Jessica was singing your praises.
I haven't seen her in years.
Yeah, yeah.
They ran a great, I sold the property.
Yeah.
They moved out.
I think the issue of changing the mindset is critical. If we can get that ingrained and they start to come back and they see it early enough in the spring, that they don't bring their kids here.
So to expedite things, you know, what I'd like to propose is that we work with you to make a proposal for immediate service, just to get things moving, and we can talk about, you know, the winter and annual contract after. We'll probably learn a lot over the next, you know, weeks or months to get a better understanding of what it may look like for the winter and spring. And then, Mary, if we could get a notice, and as well, Mark,
I can give you the breakdown.
if we can get a notice out to the community to ask, for people's willingness to allow access to their property for the geese mitigation, that would be great. And then as well, Mark, just to get partnership with Marine Patrol for sighting would also be a big help.
And Mike, one question real quick. Is there a release form that the resident would sign to hold harmless the vendor from eating their cat or anything else that could happen?
I honestly haven't ever had to get into that scenario before, but I mean, we are insured. We do carry insurance on the business. It is a unique business, so it's insurance is unique to that.
Mark, I think there's going to have to be some kind of permission granted by the homeowner.
Yeah, maybe it's just a written, you know, just a written permission, and you know,
maybe it's something you send in an email and they can just check it and send it back.
Yeah, I mean,
electronic signature, whatever.
Yeah, I honestly, we can talk about this going forward, but I honestly, if it's something that the homeowner is concerned that I'm going to get hurt on their property or something to that effect, we can sign something saying we're not going to hold them responsible.
There are templates that.
You know.
If Henry's here, I'm sure he can figure it out.
Yeah.
Mike, is that a motion you're making?
Well, let's make a motion.
I second.
Oh, we got 2 seconds. All in favor?
What was the motion?
The motion was
work with these guys
to take the next step and develop a proposal
for immediate
service.
Seek
buy-in or permission from property owners through not only CLA, but also through the town. And then as well, engaged Marine Patrol to be a partnership or in partnership with us on this initiative to help with geese sightings.
So it's not to go forward with this.
It's merely, it's to develop a, yeah, but remember, we only meet once a month. So in order to act quickly, you know, we're going to need to put things together quickly, and it may need some other action from us.
Special meeting.
Yeah. I guess let me ask you this. So let's vote on that. Is everybody in favor of that motion?
Yeah, aye.
Okay, all in favor. Any opposed? Okay. In addition to that, if we can negotiate a contract that fits within the town's budget and we can move forward, are we and we have you know, adequate buy-in from the community and you know, the CLA and other property owners, does this board support moving forward with this service?
Why don't we let the town negotiate the contract?
We can, but I'm just,
I'm
fair enough, but what I'm trying to ask is if we can get those pieces in place.
Right.
It moves faster.
Does this board,
I would
just say if it
support-
works within the budget, we recommend the Board of Selectmen to hire somebody.
okay, so we can make that we can make that motion now.
Right.
Yes.
I would support a pilot program to test this for this fall.
Yep.
End of summer through fall.
Yes, that's what we're talking
And then
about.
we can reevaluate.
Yes, this, right now, all we're talking about is a
Yeah.
good word, pilot program for this fall, and then we'll reassess in November to,
Which gives
to
us
see,
time.
to develop a proposal that would be, you know, for the winter slash.
So we're recommending that to the Board of Selectmen.
We're not doing, we're putting together a motion right now.
To recommend to the
Yes,
Board of
so we've
Selectmen.
done one, that we're gonna move forward.
So second.
Now, there's a second motion. Would you like to make a motion on this?
Recommend that I propose that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen that a pilot program be established for this fall to eradicate geese at the beach, I guess is the program.
Fall or summer into fall?
Or summer into fall.
Yeah, okay.
Summer into fall.
Yep.
So then it's up to the board now to just.
Right, we're making our recommendation. Okay. Any discussion on that motion? Okay. All in favor? Oh, we need a second. Oh, we have. You guys.
What do we have here for second?
Either
My name's
one.
Mary.
There was two of them.
Her name's Mary.
Start
I
studying.
told you everybody was fired up about this. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah.
Any abstentions? Okay, so move.
And
So,
Mike, if
yeah.
we could get a proposal before the 16th of August, that's our next Board of Selectmen
no,
meeting.
you're gonna get a proposal.
In the next couple of days.
Couple of days, you'll have a proposal.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay, so we're good. Is there any other discussion or anything else that we'd like to cover?
I'll just introduce this very quickly. The CLA is in total support, although there's still two sides to non-lethal versus lethal. It was a very, I would say, heated discussion at our CLA meeting.
Yeah.
They did have a motion. They would like to work with LMAC to create a volunteer group to study the issue of geese on Columbia Lake and make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. They're saying we said make recommendations before April 2023, but I think we would be eager to amend that and do it sooner than later.
Okay.
So I'll just give that to you so you have it.
Okay,
From the CLA meeting.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. And thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but we certainly understand if you need to move on.
Thank you so much.
Can I just ask, do you guys have a handle on seasonal residency? I mean, you know how many?
Versus transit?
Well, you know, the 20%, is it 50%? Because it might.
Well, it's
It might
not
affect most of
seasonal,
our-
it's weekend.
Right, I get it. They're not typically here during the week,
Yeah.
they might come Friday, Saturday.
I mean, we do
Sunday.
have seasonal, but we also have weekends, like to my right and left, they don't even on the weekend. And it's.
But we do have about 70% of the houses around the lake are
Year-round.
permanent year-round houses, whether they're
Oh,
occupied or
yes.
not is something else.
Yeah,
There's still about 20 to 25% cottages that are shut down for winter
yeah.
officially.
Well, it just goes to the point of communication, that's all. I'm just trying to figure out, you know, they might be
Well, we
living
have-
under somebody's deck that nobody noticed.
Yeah, we have mailing addresses.
Yeah, and, you know, the timing right now is perfect because, you know, everybody's frustrated.
Yeah.
And
Most everybody's here.
most everybody's here, so the timing is perfect to, you know, push this initiative forward, so.
No, I'm good. Yeah, we're gonna talk about all that stuff. when I do the proposal, okay? I'm
The
gonna-
power line.
Tess is the manager, she's just making sure we're covered.
The organizer.
All right.
I call her-
I know.
All
I call
right.
her Jessica.
There you go.
She knows what I'm talking about.
I didn't say it the last time I saw you, I helped carry you to the car and pass it.
She's learned a few things since then.
Okay, guys, well,
Thank you so much, guys.
So nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
we do have a website if anybody's interested in going on it.
Yep.
Just check us out, centralcanine.com. Everything's on there, the dog training and the website for the goose patrol is on there. So.
Yes, can you have us train our dogs to do this too?
Actually, I'll
My
tell you.
wife- my wife will get it done, trust me.
My Scotty is a great job.
Yeah, just.
Okay.
It works.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, bye.
Have a good night. Keep an eye on him, will you, Tessa?
See you on the lake.
Thank you. All right. Well, that was very productive.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, next up, Marine Patrol. Where would we like to start with Marine Patrol?
I'll just start with a real quick. Yesterday, Mark Volza turned in his resignation. He's got a new job. And right now, the assistant rec director, Anika, is filling in for Mark. And we just met today. So Anika is still going to handle the gate and lifeguard and Marine Patrol monitoring. I've been in touch with the Marine Patrol officers. They're going to meet with me for a follow-up meeting in Anika to make sure we're all on the same game plan based on what I hear tonight from LMAC on what you perceive the needs are to make sure we're addressing protecting the seawalls, protecting the security of boaters, swimmers, property, and we're ready to work with you to organize and make sure we're hitting all the check boxes that LMAC and the Board of Selectmen want us to do. So I'm just start the meeting off with that. Otherwise, the rec director would have been here tonight, but he's resigned.
Question for you, Mark. Does Anika have a boating license?
Yes, she's actually works on the Marine Patrol, filling in when shifts are needed.
Okay, good.
Mark, does anybody on Marine Patrol have EMT training at all, or any kind of training?
Yes.
Brian Auld, the previous fire chief of East Haddam, or he is the fire chief of East Haddam. We hired Brian, and he is trained in. I don't know if he's an EMT. I know he's trained in as a firefighter for emergency rescue, but I could find out if any of them are. I doubt they're EMT because most are either law enforcement or volunteers that just want to help out.
How many Marine Patrol people do we have now?
Actively on the roster is about 4.
4?
Right.
How can you do that? They can't work more than 30 hours a week, can they?
Well, right now, Marine Patrol is being handled by Brian Auld, John Marshall, Dave, who's been around for quite a while, I forget Dave's last name, and Anika. And I'll be up to speed much more as I get involved. I've been working on this without Mark.
Mark, I thought there was a limit to the amount of hours part-time people could work per week.
Wait.
Doesn't the town have? Isn't there a limit to the amount of hours you can do as a?
I'm sure there's more than 4. There's more than 4 Marine Patrol, but the 3 I noted and Anika take most of the shifts. But this is not their main income. They're not requiring benefits. Over 19 hours, over 20 hours, you're allowed to have health benefits. But all our Marine Patrol officers have other jobs, so they're retired.
Aren't there 2 young ladies? One services the gate named Tegan, I think, and Melanie, is it?
Tegan is.
And I'm not sure about. I can't answer those questions.
Sharon's daughter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Maddie Ross.
Maddie, thank you.
Yeah, Maddie, yes.
Thank you.
You know, Mark, there's just a concern that we're concerned as residents. I think that the training process for these Marine Patrol people needs to be a little bit in more depth. We're getting so many different answers from people. They don't really know what to answer any of the residents or how to check on things. There was an incident just recently that, oh, if Coventry Lake is closed, it's perfectly okay to put your boat in here because you've been in here before. That's kind of scary because we just don't know where those boats are coming in from and they're not being checked. They're not being checked.
A Marine Patrol officer allowed a boat to come in from Coventry Lake because.
Well, they said that Coventry Lake's been closed for 2 weeks, so
it's no big deal.
It's no big deal.
Who said that?
One of the
A Marine Patrol person, I have it in here someplace. I have an addendum. I have a statement from the CLA, and then I have an addendum of 2.5 pages of behaviors that either at the gate and or on the lake is potentially minimizing our ability to prevent invasive species and or an accident.
And I think the biggest, as Mary's saying, is that it comes in the training of the people. It's not that they don't want to do it. They don't know what to do and what to look for. You can't look at that from inside the building.
Yeah. So I think, well, let me ask, I'm just going to ask a question. And Mark, I don't know if you want to comment on this, but are we all in agreement that Marine Patrol needs improvement?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's one step at a time. But okay. So, Mark, are you? Yeah. Okay. So, with that said, let's identify, the major areas of Marine Patrol. Obviously, there's the gate, which you just mentioned. There is
lake monitoring.
Monitoring of activity, lake activity, right?
Mm-hmm.
What else?
What else? Suggest 5.
Yeah. You go, girl.
We were at the CLA meeting in July, and this became a very robust decision. And the motion that's about to come after we explain what we spoke about, the discussions clearly focused on the gate. And the potential of invasive species and on the lake monitoring and the inconsistencies. And at the CLA discussions, we spoke to what are the responsibilities of Marine Patrol. 1, enforce Town of Columbia lake ordinances and Connecticut boating regulations. 2, promote safety. 3, respond rapidly to emergencies. 4, educate the community. 5, be goodwill ambassadors. Those were the 5 key points that we felt should be focused on at the gate and or on the lake monitoring. And Mark, I'll say this, it may be perfect timing, but in the spirit of partnership, the CLA developed a statement with those behaviors so you can see the absolute need for, and I have a motion to make on behalf of the CLA for accountability and training, or training and accountability to do things in a uniform way. So we minimize any risk of invasive species and we minimize any liability of accidents because the Marine Patrol has done some things inconsistently.
And I'll totally support that. If you could get me in writing everything you've agreed on at CLA and everything you agree on tonight at LMAC, I'll make sure we work together between Anika, myself, and Marine Patrol, the gate monitors, and I bring in the training required to make sure we're hitting all those points. So I'll commit to you that that'll happen, and we'll just make sure, because I take this serious too. Just so everybody knows, for the last 10 years, I'm a Marine Patrol officer on the Connecticut River. I work for the Essex Police Department, so I'm an officer for them. I see the need for this on a weekend basis. That's what I do on the weekends. And it's scary out there. There's a lot of people that should not be on a boat on the water.
So why hasn't that been addressed?
Let's move forward. I hear you. I hear you. But let's move
Who does
forward.
the actual training?
Yeah, but everybody complained.
Previously, the training was done by Mark Volza and Mark Vining.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Vining
and Greg DeCarly, our resident trooper. But I think there's the need for a more unified training and probably looking at who are our main officers and make sure we've got the right people in place.
Yeah.
So what's gonna happen tomorrow at the lake? Because there's no inspections going on. Anybody can come in the lake and out of the lake.
Mark, I counted the other night, 8 boats being launched between 6 and 7:30 p.m. No one walked down on them. 8 boats. I don't even know if they were town boats, anybody boats. So I called on Marine Patrol. They came in, they went right back out. Nobody's checked, and I watched all the little boats go all tooling around the lake. 8 boats in an hour and a half.
Okay. Hey, Mike, I can tell you, I bought a new little used boat this year, brought it down to the launch. Kids were sitting in that little pergola thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, hey, brother. Yeah. Oh, you're good.
Yeah, they're not even getting up and going over.
So I knew it was clean. I did the inspection myself. I've been certified. It was not even in the water for the last month, so I wasn't worried about it. But I couldn't even get them off their ass, out their butt. Sorry, to even come over to look at the boat. It's like a joke.
It's one of the.
So and also, Mark, I want to point out that
I haven't had any.
there's 2 buoys that say, no wake zone. On each side of the boats. And I've counted in the last week twice where they've come in full speed. And it's not because it's bad weather. Full speed, full throttle, and then just before they get to the last 2 boats, they back it off and then they coast in. And it's full throttle. With the bimini up or the bimini down, it doesn't matter.
Could I make a suggestion, Mark? Effective tomorrow, assuming the right manpower, the gate be closed as our operating procedure was since 2017 through 2019 until and unless a boat is inspected, whether it be a certificate, they have a boat certificate, they need a boat inspection, or they need an invasive species inspection. That's right on our website. It's not
right, and it was my understanding that the gate is always closed unless the gate. So if that's not happening, I'll make sure that changes.
Thank you. Yeah. And I will tell you, I have documentation, you just heard it from other people, but several people, the CLA say that gate is open
all the time.
The video, a person will watch the video and pop out and say, okay, you can go. It has always been open.
Okay.
And to the point where someone said, why don't we just take the gate down because it's not working? That wasn't the reason we
It
passed.
was wide open when I went there.
So-
This is the only time I've been down there this year.
It's wide open. I watched. You can do that
Mark, there's been a tremendous amount, and I'm trying to keep the frustration level low because there are a lot of people in town, and obviously not just around the lake, but all as a community at large, who are, you know, obviously very concerned about, you know, not only the human safety factor, but as well the health of the lake. And obviously, you know, we have a huge responsibility to all those who have come before us on LMAC and all that they've done over the last 50 years to keep the lake as beautiful as it is. You know, I'm trying to, like I said, keep the.
Hey, did you read my statement?
I did not. I promise I did not. But I cannot express to you not only the gravity or the extremity of this situation. You know that we need to take action immediately, and that no one, you know, that gate does not get opened. That boat does not go out on the lake. Meaning the Lake Patrol boat, until you know, at least an immediate protocol has been set, and then have a short-term and long-term plan put together.
All right, you'll notice a big difference. I'll take over working with Anika, and we'll report back.
Is the policy going to be that the gate's always locked unless there's someone monitoring it? Is that what the policy is?
The gate is locked. The gate needs to be always locked until someone comes to the gate, and then someone needs to go out and physically engage with whoever's trying to come. Or if someone's coming out, they're coming out. But before they go in, you know, there's a protocol that's already in place, and those people need to, the people who we are paying to monitor that gate need to, should not be allowing anyone out of the water until the protocols have all been met.
Okay. Okay. So people that don't have a key, they have a certain window of time that there's a gate monitor at the beach. And when they pull up, that monitor will come, open the gate, inspect the boat, and allow them on.
That's the procedure.
That's the way it was when the gate
first
came into place.
I just wanted to be clear about that.
Okay. Mark will have it tomorrow. Yeah. Can I make a suggestion? And I don't have to read this statement unless it needs to be read. I can send an email to anybody.
Well, I think, Mary, you represent a large community on the lake, and obviously there's a lot of thought and energy that went into that, and I think it would be only appropriate if you did read it, please.
Did you give me that? Yeah. Okay. Then let me, on behalf of the CLA, provide the following statement. And Mark, as I said, I think this is perfect timing, and the key here is partnership. Like the town of Columbia, the Columbia Lake Association has a vested interest in the health of our lake, the safety of all those who use the lake. For decades, we have worked in partnership with the town to ensure those goals. Marine Patrol is a critical linchpin to deliver on those goals by consistently and uniformly applying Town of Columbia and Connecticut state regulations at the boat launch gate and on the lake. At our CLA annual meeting on July 21st, as well as before and after the meeting, the CLA has received feedback from several sources regarding inconsistent enforcement of regulations at the boat gate launch, we just discussed, and while monitoring boat activity on the lake. It is evident from the meeting, the text, the emails, the phone calls, that these concerns are mounting and their fears have been expressed. That it's only a matter of time before an unfortunate accident or introduction of invasive species will result from inconsistent enforcement of our TOC ordinances and or Connecticut boating regulations. One CLA member expressed it's getting to be the Wild West out there on the lake. I described before during our meeting discussions the responsibilities we felt that needed to be included, and the Marine Patrol should be enforcing our regulations. They should be promoting safety, responding rapidly to emergencies, educating the community, and all of them should be goodwill ambassadors. In that spirit, with the Town of Columbia, the CLA partnership, the statement provides example of inconsistent behaviors. I have an addendum observed this season at the boat launch and while on the lake. We want to alert the Town of Columbia and Marine Patrol management of these inconsistencies, and we want to work with them to seek solutions to end such behaviors so as to minimize the potential for an accident and or introduction of invasive species. So the motion following this statement recommends such a solution. There's an addendum here. We've already talked about behaviors on the lake. You'll see in the addendum, there are very clear behaviors. So to conclude, there was an agreement from the CLA meeting, and I hope after discussion and the motion I'm about to offer that LMAC and the TOC partner to introduce to the Marine Patrol a set of explicit instructions at both the boat launch gate and on the lake to uniformly conduct the responsibilities of enforcement, safety, responding to emergencies, educating, and being goodwill ambassadors. To cut to the chase, I'd like to offer the following motion, and it's all about how do we put together, of which I believe historically we have a fair amount of data, standard operating procedures for the Marine Patrol. The motion reads, LMAC recommends the Town of Columbia Board of Selectmen charge the town administrator with the Marine Patrol to develop standard operating procedures outlining their mission, focus, goals, as well as providing explicit instructions to train to hold accountable, and to accomplish the goals to be goodwill ambassadors who enforce rules at the boat launch and on the lake. This is to promote public safety, education, and foster community trust and confidence. In addition, LMAC recommends the Board of Selectmen ensure that the Town of Columbia Marine Patrol SOPs identify and provide appropriate ongoing training sessions, instructions, and details required to perform these procedures at the boat launch gate and or on the lake monitoring. So responsibilities are executed in a uniform manner for performing recurring activities and reacting to expected events. End of motion.
All right. We have a motion. Does anybody second the motion?
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Does anybody have any comments or anything to add?
I'm going to pass out the addendum.
Yeah. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
That's been a real good one.
Jim has some comments.
Jimmy?
I understand what the motion is, but there's no specifics in it. If we pass it, what does that mean?
Jimmy, there's an addendum of 11. There's an 8-page addendum that I've just handed out that gives examples of what standing operating procedures are and materials we have from 2019 that give specifics at the gate and on the lake. So that's what I will email you tonight. And David.
And this motion would say that LMAC is recommending all these items?
Yes, and Jim, this is, I don't mean to speak out of turn here, but Jim, this is all based on, everything that's really been established already with, our guidelines and everything that we do it's already there. It's just utilizing it.
Yeah.
It hasn't been being enforced, Jim, is the real issue here.
We have 1-page guidelines for how to apply for a permit on the lake. We're going to have them for the transfer station. I think we could have a 1-page, here's what should be done at the boat. Okay, and here's what should be done on the lake to the best of our
Mary, I agree with that. I just don't know what it says. Like if we approve this motion, we're saying that 8-page amendment are the items we want in it, right?
Well, the addendum supports putting together the SOPs.
Yeah.
I'm happy to support and work with Mark Walter, who is a Marine Boat Patrol to make it essential to Columbia Lake. Let me give you an example. One of the behaviors that was shared was kid is swimming in the middle of the lake, no boat near him. Went and told the Marine Patrol, motorboat goes away, goes all the way around the lake, and the Marine Patrol person, because the motorboat person said it's in the dam, was going opposite the dam. The poor person didn't know where the dam was. Yeah. Same thing. Something happened in front of the camp. They didn't know where the camp was. To me, the first thing is give them a map. Mark Walden and I have talked about this.
Right.
This is a really road code. That's as simple as we have to get.
Jim, I appreciate that you're mobile right now, but it's much clearer when it's in writing and in person here. So I
can just abstain.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to abstain from the vote, you know, you can.
Can I make a comment here about there's certain restrictions as to what we can do, limited by the DEP and how you can do things. So if you David, start making rules,
David, I wasn't finished with Jim.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Jim, do you understand where I was going with that?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and that's fine. I'll abstain because I just don't know what it says. So, yep.
Okay. Fine. All right, and David, please go ahead.
So, you know, the DEP has some say over what we do on the water, and you might be overstepping your bounds by coming in with something like this. I'm just saying, you know, there's some restrictions as to, you know, Mark will know what these are.
It's on our town website.
David, we're not asking for anything. The motion is not asking for anything that's not already been established. It's just reinforcing what has been established and that it needs to be more thorough because the actions that have been observed do not support all of the regulations and guidelines that have already been established.
There's one more issue, Mark. The town's ordinances were rewritten about 3 years ago. The trifold that is a handout, it was rewritten. It was not rewritten properly. There's some things that were omitted in the rewrite. And I would suggest going back to the original one, which was adopted by the Board of Selectmen. I'm not sure you can abbreviate or change those without the Board of Selectmen being involved.
Okay.
Right.
Mark Coleman originally, who was one of the first Marine Patrol officers, originally wrote those with and had them adopted by the first selectman. I think the rewrite doesn't have any legal standing because I don't think you can rewrite ordinances without the first selectman voting on it.
Okay.
I would suggest to go back to the original trifold.
And Mark, I have those if you need them. I think that's the version I know.
I have them also.
But he's an audience. We haven't gone through the meeting yet, so I don't know who the audience of citizens is.
I don't either.
But say again.
Well, let's.
Yeah, we have a motion on the table.
So we have a motion on the table. Let's work through it. So do we have any further discussion on the motion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions?
Abstention.
Okay. Jim, are you an abstention or?
Yes. Yes. I'm an abstention.
Okay.
David, I'll email this to you tonight.
Yep.
You'll see it's an 11-page document.
Okay. So motion has been passed. We'll move forward. So Mark, if you could please forward this to the Board of Selectmen as well.
Mark, I'll email this to you. And leave a copy of the
Okay. All right. With that said, are we complete on the Marine Patrol subject?
No. I just have a couple of questions. There are two issues out there that we mentioned is that when the first thing that they do at the boat launch is ask if the boat's been in any other waters. Which is a valid question, but if you say yes, nobody inspects it. So I don't think that should be even a question. I think every boat needs to be inspected.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing that could be addressed relatively easily and quickly. Yeah. The other thing, a little bit more touchy, is the gate keys. I think it's a bad idea, and I think you should get rid of it. I think the fishermen are the ones that need that open the most, and they're probably the riskiest group we have to bring in invasive species, since they go lake to lake to lake. And where do they like to fish? In the weedy lakes, because that's where the fish are. So I'd like you to consider taking that away.
I'd like to just comment on that. I appreciate the risk that you're identifying, and it certainly is a substantial risk. And I'm speaking, you know, from a place of PTSD of having been around when the gate was put in place, and how grossly we as a board missed a community of people who wanted access to the lake and had a right to the lake as any resident has. I think we can talk about it further, but I think it is a very, very hot topic, and brings in, as evidenced by those who were around for that, it brings in a whole other set of issues and objections to the gate holistically. I think your concerns are well founded, and I certainly hear them, and we can certainly keep that as a piece of business that we can discuss further at another time.
Perhaps we table it for today.
But I will tell you, we've been down that road, and it's.
I'm happy to catch up with you.
Yeah.
I don't think I have the bruises yet.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, just to comment on that, to agree. There was I don't know what it was, 3-5 years ago, there was a public hearing for the entire town of Columbia, and it was well represented from the entire town. And the selectmen are the ones that actually made that decision. So that's not something that we certainly make recommendations if we wanted to, but that's nothing that we really have control over other than a recommendation. To your point, the town was very vocal about, and this was a compromise, what everybody agreed on.
Correct.
So, just so everybody knows that didn't attend or didn't have that history.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah. So please know that your point is well taken, but it also was just something that.
So how do we move forward with that? I mean,
we can do further discussion with it. We can look at, how do we reinforce education and compliance for key holders. We can look, there's probably a number of solutions that I certainly haven't thought of, and I'm sure this group will come up with. What's that?
Gate monitors could be there in the morning, for example, when the fishermen come.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. Lose the keys, expand the hours at the gate.
Yeah.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah. So again, and that comes down to budget, right? Because then we have to say, we don't need 30,000 a year, we need 60,000 a year.
And maybe a charge a launching fee.
Yeah, this opens up a whole other point of discussion, and I think we should probably leave it in our business.
I think it's a valid comment that you've made.
Yeah.
I just think we need to go back, research it. I'm happy to meet with you and give you the history, and then how do we best move forward? Because I think
we also have some data of how the keys have worked for the last couple of years.
That's a great point.
So maybe it's time to revisit the whole
process.
It's been a mess.
Yeah.
So how many?
If Mary starts twitching when she's telling you the history of it, you might.
I was on the.
I had to make a presentation had all the fishermen.
Yeah, I was on the committee as well.
Let's
develop the whole thing.
But you gotta weigh the health of our lake.
Yeah,
you're preaching to the choir on that.
Yes.
The problem is you can't give the people that live on the lake access to the lake from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. without giving the rest of the Columbia residents the same access.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
That's
because it's a public lake. Yeah.
You need to figure out a way to expand the gate protection. That's all.
That's exactly
the answer.
So we'll leave that, we'll table that for now and keep that discussion going. Yeah, go ahead.
My question was, how many keys are actually out? Does anyone know?
I'll bet 25.
You're muted.
I'll find out exactly. I believe we normally give out about 50 a year.
Ooh. So
okay. All right.
I have one other thing.
Yeah.
Those reports that we got about the lake patrol, I think we got May and June. We haven't got July yet. I mean, it's like 2 lines. It tells us nothing.
Dude just resigned.
Yeah, that's what it tells. Yeah, that's what that tells me.
Man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's at 4 toes or whatever.
Maybe it should be in the SOPs that these are the
We need
and this would also be.
Yes, we have to track who keeps breaking the rules over and over again. Right now, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Except we know this boat and that boat.
That's why I would imagine, and I hope that Mark's experience as a state patrol officer on the river, you know, that he can bring some better consistency to the program and depth to the program.
Another question.
Yeah.
Mark, how many in the past, we figured out that there's 1, 2, 3, 6, 4 active. How many in the past have we had for boat patrol that have patrolled our lake?
Wait, I didn't hear the question.
How many in the past,
How many
in 2018 or 2019, 2020, I mean, what was the average number of people that we used for boat patrol?
I can't answer that. I believe we normally have anywhere from 5 to 10 people that do marine patrol. Bob, back when you were doing it, how many did you?
There were probably 12 people total, including
you.
We're trying to get the gate people as well to be boat people as well. So there wasn't somebody that was just doing gate, they were doing both duties, because then they can appreciate the job. So we had anywhere between 10 and 12 people. And that's because we were limiting them to less than 28 hours a week or something like that, or 20 hours a week.
Okay, so I'll get all that data, and by the next meeting, I'll be able to give you a much more accurate report.
Well, I was just trying to help figure it out to how, it would seem to have been working a few years ago. Now it seems to be we have less people, it's not working as well. So it seems to be, that's just what I've seen.
Also a transition. My understanding is all the people this year are brand new and they didn't bring back any experienced people. I don't know if that's accurate.
I can tell you ever since I've been on this lake, about 50% of the lake patrol was incompetent. Half of the employees, the whole time. Well, you get a different answer every single time you talk to one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Let's. We tabling that.
I think we all established that this is an issue that needs to get resolved. We've got a motion in place moving forward, and we'll obviously, as a board, we can also support this process of improving the lake patrol.
Do we have an audience of citizens?
Well, thank you. I've been trying to get there.
Rich. So, first of all, we have the minutes.
We've gone through 2 lines tonight.
We haven't done the minutes.
Yeah. So hi, we have an audience of citizens.
Hi.
Hi. And your name?
My name is William Ross.
Hi, William Ross.
Hi.
Is there anything you'd like to bring to the board tonight?
I'm here to listen.
Okay, great.
Mr. Ross, may I have your address though, please?
183 Route 87.
Thank you.
Great. And is there anything that any questions we can answer or?
No, I would just tell you that my daughter is on the Marine Patrol. And so I'm here to listen.
Yeah.
And I I take issue with some of the comments about being incompetent. I'm going to make the point. I'm just going to say one thing. And Maddie took this job because my understanding is they were having a difficult time finding people to do it because it pays minimum wage. She was 16 years old. She passed the voter safety course, given, I believe, at town hall. She finished that course at 1:30 and she was on duty at 2 o'clock. Okay, so whose fault is that? If there isn't, okay, so no training at all. And so that's a management issue, right?
And I think if you don't mind, if I could just comment, I think we we tried to capture that there wasn't a clear standard operating procedure. There wasn't a clear protocol that, you know, the tools weren't necessarily given to the personnel. So if the word incompetent came out,
well, it just came out.
It was no. I said if it as it came out, I think it was not necessarily.
I'm sorry if you don't like the word. I can't help.
I don't like it.
Okay. Well,
yeah, and I don't care for you either.
Yeah, I know you.
Well, please, listen. I appreciate where you're coming from, and I think that holistically, you know, yes, there are major issues that we need to resolve, and the statement and the motion was trying to address those from a management standpoint to help give the personnel the tools that they need.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
So if you're tasking a 16 or 17-year-old person with this job, then there should be a clear set of instructions.
Agreed.
Right? Bullet points. Very simple for a 16 or 17-year-old person to understand.
Agreed.
Circle walk, right? I'm a voter.
Yeah.
Circle walk. If somebody has a sticker, I'm going to tell you, because my voting on the lake predated the gate. And the way that was always handled was if you pull in and you've got a sticker on the side of the window, they just wave you through. And so if that's not the case anymore, I think that has to be the case.
Absolutely.
I think the reason that was required the most important part of the inspection, if you have a sticker, is for invasive species.
Yeah,
it never happened. That never happened before the gate.
Yeah,
the inspection never included inspection for invasive species.
Well, so there's two levels of inspection.
Safety.
There's the initial safety and regulatory inspection, which also should include an invasive species inspection. But then anytime a boat is removed from Columbia Lake and then brought back.
I'm saying that was my experience prior to.
Oh, right, fair enough.
Okay. So once the gate went into place, a big part of the inspections have to do with invasive species. Entering the lake and leaving the lake. The gatekeeper is supposed to inspect the boat for invasive species when they leave the lake. Because we could have some that we don't want to take to another lake.
Yeah, so I don't question that. So I would tell you that what I would say to Maddie is that really she needs to do a circle walk for every boat that comes and goes, right? And that makes good common sense. And but I think a simple directive to these people is appropriate.
Yep.
I don't think that's happening.
No, I think you're frustrated about. Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the frustrations stem from is the inconsistency. So sure. Your point is well taken, and certainly you know, are working to resolve that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. 8:30. And we're right down through that. We haven't done the minutes yet.
No, we have not.
Okay. All right. Minutes of last meeting.
I recommend accepting.
Okay. We have a second. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Any opposed? Okay. So moved. I am going to do the speed dating version of the rest of our meeting. Is there any issues? Any issues that anybody has with any of the standard committee reports, whether it be the dam, water quality, fishing, access and safety, watershed, stormwater culverts, dam emergency plan?
I had one question on
sure.
Water quality
reports.
I'm sorry, not the dam reports?
Yep.
There was no water temperature taken?
Never, it has never been. I was just gonna bring that up, Bob, yeah.
I can tell you,
We used to have.
We used to have a water temperature, but we
Yeah.
haven't had them since the reports have been being done.
we have a
78 degrees.
A daily temperature on.
But that's
the time, the date, and the temperature.
Okay.
That's not the water.
All right, Dave, what were you saying?
We had 78 degrees at one point. It's gone down a degree or two, but that's just at my dock, and I got a big pier that warms the water. Just for the report.
But who's taking?
Wasn't it always at the Secchi Disc, location?
Yeah.
Wasn't that where the?
That's where it used to be when Mark would take it,
Yeah.
We would take it.
So when the Secchi Disc gets measured, there should be a water temperature that goes along with that.
And it's never been on these new reports that Beth has been doing. Maybe she doesn't realize it.
But I thought the volunteer committee was doing.
Yeah,
this.
can I call you back?
What did? Or Mark?
Mark used to have a thermometer with him when he checked the water height. So that's something I don't have, and I can try to get one, and the pool thermometer would work. That's what we have on our dock.
Okay.
Are you gonna take it over to the dam, David?
Take it down 4 feet down.
I'll do it when I say I can test it next month and see what I get. But the water at like I said, is about 78. It got pretty warm.
I believe it's 4 inches.
What am I saying? 88. It was 88. Yeah.
approaching 80.
4 inches down.
Yeah, it was
I believe
88
it's
at
4
one
inches
point. But it's
down,
gone
too.
back down. The water's 4 inches down. Yep.
Right.
Okay. All right. So water's 4 inches down, and the temperature was about 78. But we should just reestablish a common point in depth that the water is tested. And I apologize, I don't remember what it was, but as I remember, it was at the Secchi Disc point.
Yes.
That's
water temperature?
Yeah.
No, that's too deep.
Oh, so it was.
Secchi Disc is down 4 meters.
Yeah, but it was
No,
over there.
no,
No, we're saying
Oh, it was
over.
the same location.
It was in that same location. I
Yes.
just can't remember what the depth.
About 200 yards
Yeah.
south.
There's a buoy there.
Bob, how far down? 2 feet down, Bob?
No, I think it was. I'm not sure what it was, Dave. I'm not sure.
All right.
You gotta get down. You gotta get down at least 2 feet. I think.
Yeah, because the Secchi Disc will be into the thermal. You know, it'll be the water.
Secchi Disc is about 12 feet down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was 4.5 meters, according to the engineers.
4.25 and 4.0.
Yeah.
Okay. And any other items?
So they don't mention the temperature in there, do they?
No, and I'm going to
Why
make
don't you
a
have
note of
them
that.
Yeah, they're there.
They should do it. They do all 4 locations.
Yeah.
They take water quality on 4 locations.
Yeah. Are they doing? They're not doing Secchi Disc. That's.
Yeah.
Oh, they are.
They are doing Secchi Disc. It's at 4.0. And July 20th, I think I know.
Okay.
And it was an improvement over June.
Yeah. Okay.
June was less.
Good.
So I sent an email in response in regards to the dredging at the public beach, Mark. And can you hear me?
You can.
Yes,
and I sent out an email to the LMAC members because they were dredging and they were excavating at the public beach the other morning. And then they were moving the sand as far as they could throw it, which was on this side of where the launch, not the launch is, but on the opposite side. So they weren't really moving the sand very far, but they were dredging out the boathouse. So when I called and spoke to the person in charge of why it was, the response was, well, this is the way we've always done it. But I don't recall it being done when the water was at high level. And the reason that I was told was because the boathouse is full of sand. Well, what I watched them do is pull the sand out and then move it about 40 feet. And, just this week. And so my concern is multi-layered here. My first concern is the environmental impact on disturbing our lake bottom. And the second is, the solution would have been to me is, why don't we moor the boat patrol out at one of the public moorings? Because, you know, we're not allowed as town people, you know, living in the town to disturb the lake bottom by any means, and I understand why, but I don't understand why we're dredging.
Mark, you want me to answer the boat question first?
Sure, Bob.
No, I really wanted the dredging, because I can figure the boat is probably security or something.
It is exactly that, because we had the old Marine Patrol boat. We had low water one year, and we had to moor the boat out. We couldn't keep it in the boathouse, and somebody vandalized it and basically destroyed the boat.
Yeah. So I would be.
So there's a security issue with putting the boat in the boathouse.
Well, I would be a homeowner that has 3 docks and has one that could moor that boat at my dock.
No, you can't do that.
No, I'm just saying.
I offered that at my dock.
I would be willing to offer to moor the boat rather than dredging our lake bottom when we're in full season and disturbing the environment than having that behavior and worrying about safety, because no one bothers typically someone at their dock. You understand what I'm saying? There's not much vandalism going on our private property. Why are we doing that? But why are we dredging?
Just so everyone knows what we do every year. Normally it's done during the drawdown. And we go out with a backhoe and get rid of the hump that develops in front of the boathouse. There's a big hump of sand that happens every year, and we move the sand back up onto the beach. In this case, this year, we moved the hump also to the hole that's developing at the end of the boat launch due to people firing out of the boat launch and digging up a hole at the end of the cement ramp.
Mark, I would argue that point right there, because I have pictures that they did not make it to the other side of the pier. It was all dumped on the side of the pier towards the boathouse. They didn't make it to the hump on the other side. I have pictures.
All right, I'm not following that, but what we're trying to do is just get the Marine Patrol boat in the boathouse. That's all. And then we regrade the beach, and it's not a long process. It's normally early in the morning.
It started at 6:45 a.m. and it finished at 8:45.
Okay. But we have been doing that every year. For the last 6 years I've been here.
Mark, I thought the reason for the redesign of the beach was to prevent erosion of the sand.
And when you say, Bob, the redesign of the beach, you mean the creation of the pier?
No, the wall that's there, the walkway. The beach used to be a very steep beach, and it was flattened out, and the purpose of that was to prevent eroding.
I believe that the sand that's filling up the boathouse is coming from around the pier and going down the whole beach area and dumping at the boathouse.
Where's the sand coming from? Where's the sand coming from?
Well, I believe sand's moving around the entire lake at all times. The pier creates, what happened with the pier on the beach side of the pier, the erosion was so bad, we had to create a Jersey barrier because it was eroding, the entire underneath of the pier was eroding due to water currents. So you have a lot of serious water current action, probably caused by the boats and the wind at that lake. And because you have so many seawalls, it creates a bathtub effect that is very violent. So this is a much bigger discussion than I'm going to be able to explain in 5 minutes. We might be able to have to hire an engineer to give us an analysis, but at the moment, the quick solution to move, 10 wheelbarrows worth of sand so the boat can get in the boat launch is to we use a trash pump, which just sucks the water and moves the sand out of the boat launch.
And then they blew it over to where the people swim. They did not go to the other side of the pier as you think.
So they put it back.
They put it back so it can go back in. It looked like government job security.
You can do without the commentary, but I appreciate. Let's stick to the data. Okay. So it's so noted. Let's leave it as an old business item that we can look at and try to better understand it. we can monitor it to see how often that's needed. But it is a typical thing that's happened, but it has never, to my recollection, it's never happened at high water.
No.
That's
usually towards the end of the water.
right. Yeah.
This is early.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay. I have received calls. Do we have any permits? I don't think we have any permits. Okay. I've received a number of calls about non-conforming lake structures. And I don't know that we're going to be able to solve it tonight, but there are a number of moored structures. One was over by Carl Foster's house. There's a right of way. There's no, you can't put a mooring in a right of way, right?
It has to be more than 50 feet lake frontage.
Yeah, no, it's like 20 feet.
Well, yeah.
And it's a jet ski.
It's
There's
Mr.
a jet ski,
Delrush.
right?
Two person.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Delrush. Yeah.
Okay. So, hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Mr. Delrush needs to be made aware that he's got a non-conforming mooring over on his right of way.
You're sure he doesn't have more than 50 feet?
And okay.
Yeah, he does not.
That's what I
gotta
heard.
make sure he doesn't.
It's 15 at most.
Oh, I'm saying, to make sure.
Yeah. We just have to confirm that he doesn't have more than 50 feet.
So if he's less than 50 feet of beach frontage, he cannot have a mooring?
That's correct. He can't have a dock or a mooring. He does have a dock, which is grandfathered.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
that's
the mooring, he cannot have a mooring.
Right, but you can't have a mooring.
okay.
Okay.
It's like the two.
All right,
It's like
and
the
then
two.
I've also received calls about a number of just structures around the lake. You know, a lot of the blow up things that just I don't know. I don't think they have permits. Is my
Aren't you supposed to take them in every year?
Yeah.
well,
It hasn't been.
no, not if it's your only one and it conforms. If it meets the 12 by 12 and the height requirement, then it can stay as long as it fits your allowance of 3.
I see.
And it's permanent.
And it's permitted. Yeah, I'm just saying that there's a number of them that
So like there's an airplane down
That's
there.
good too there. And
Is that too high or something?
it's 30 inches.
I can't remember. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah,
I don't have a copy of the ordinance.
There are a lot of
Yes.
these, looks just like this flat styrofoam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
I don't know if those are.
So again, another item that I think we need to put in the permit review is, reviewing any structures, or do we, what is our process? Should we be out doing an outreach to assess whether people have conforming structures, or do we just respond to complaints, specific complaints?
Mike, is that what Bob is doing? Could that be added to the report that Bob is doing? On permits?
Yes, well, it could, but I wanted to put out to the board, which merely as a beginning to this subject. There was one specific, like the Dobush mooring, but as a board, are we going to respond to complaints and monitor, the non-conforming structures that way, or are we going to do
Be proactive
and it gets complicated quick because
if you do one, you almost got it.
In the past, the head of the Marine Patrol was also a member of this board, of this committee. So that in going around the lake, you would notice things like that, and bring it to this committee to discuss it as an issue, that type of thing. So there's no official person going around and inspecting things.
Yeah.
So we're only relying on complaints.
Yeah.
A lot of times the complaints don't come because people don't know what the rules are.
Yeah.
And what's been grandfathered and what hasn't.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. Well,
So let's just leave it as an item to review next?
Old, new, old.
Well, I guess it'll be,
new.
but it doesn't matter, just make
Okay.
sure it doesn't leave the report.
Gotcha.
The minutes, I mean, or not the minutes, the agenda.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, having Bob here as well, and you guys, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
I've seen a whole bunch of things. I see these floating carpets out there now that are like
That's what we're talking.
20 feet by 10 feet.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back, you know, on my next night and it might be gone. Some of them seem to be just leaving them out there.
Yeah.
I
don't know if that's legal or not.
No, I don't think it is.
I take mine in every day.
So.
I take mine in
Is
every day.
it
Yeah.
considered tubes? Is it considered a raft?
Our
Is
neighbors
it-
do too.
Yeah.
It's a rack, it's big.
Yeah.
And it's like the size of this table. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen a few of those.
Yeah.
People do it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
As long as they take it in. You know?
Yeah, they roll them up. They roll them up.
Yeah, it looks like you're
I
rolling.
see a lot of them down the shore.
Yeah.
Because they're
There's some down by the dam, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple down there too.
So.
But I don't know if they bring them in at night. I don't know.
There's a big conglomerate of like 3 or 4 different things all kind of tied together over by the dam area. I don't know what that's all about. That seems to have been there forever.
Where's that?
It's over by the dam area.
Oh.
So, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I've had a couple of calls and, you know.
Well, especially in that area, because that cove is not that big.
Yeah.
You start putting a bunch of things.
Bare
in there.
minimum, we should respond to inquiries.
Yeah.
Well, the one specific one, I've asked Mark to contact Mr. Dobush and let him know he's got what appears to be a non-conforming mooring.
Yeah, I saw it the other day in my laptop.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other ones were kind of just general, you know, comments about, you know, questioning
If I
whether
recall, that mooring was there about 5 years ago.
was it.
With that jet ski, because that jet ski was never inspected.
Okay.
Somebody walked it down the right way and dumped it into the lake.
Okay. All right. And as far as other items, is there any update on the storm water culverts?
No.
Okay. So we'll
Thank you,
just,
Jim.
we'll keep that active. And John Burrell letter.
Nothing. Mark, I asked Jen the other day if she had gotten the letter that John Burrell, we hoped to sign, and he hasn't signed it yet, sent it back.
Okay, we have not received it.
And well, I don't know. My question is, when I had mentioned that to you a few days ago, you said maybe we could do something else because that's going to make a huge difference with this board.
I'll ask, I went down and talked to the town clerk. She wanted the town attorney to weigh in on it because it's not an elected position, it's appointed. So my belief is that if the Board of Selectmen can appoint someone, they can take someone off a committee, even without a resignation letter due to non-participation. So I'll get an answer on that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I think that's all we have for tonight. Everybody else, very active meeting, very productive. So with that said,
I move we adjourn.
all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Tell where to get dinner.
We out. Thank you, everybody.